And I think that's the juggling act of diversity in the workplace. It's trying to find out, where do you fit? There are all of these skill sets that have been put into this one room. How do we align them to make them work together seamlessly? And that's the juggling act. So conflict is the juggling act of finding where your gifts can be applied to solve a problem.
It's the moment you've been waiting for. It's a conversation that must be had today and not tomorrow. Welcome to another episode of I'm Listening, I'm Ready with your host, Andrew E. Guy. Let's talk about it.
Hey everybody, this is Andrew E. Guy. Welcome to another episode of the ILIRPODCAST. That's right. It is a podcast that's dedicated for those who are on the go. Whether you're traveling by land, air, or sea, this is me, Andrew E. Guy, in the MORNING. Yes, welcome to 2021. It is the year of disrupting normalcy. So whatever you've been doing in 2020, yes, it is time to disrupt that normalcy, because it's a new year, it's a new day, it's a new month, it's a new moment in your life when you got to start listening to the right stuff, listening to the right people, but most of all, you got to take the action steps to transform your life for a better living. And speaking of which, I am hanging out with my special guest all the way down there from Northern Virginia. That's right. All right. She is simply amazing. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what she does, because I can't give you all of it right now. It's a juicy conversation. I'm getting ready. So my next guest, Miss Suman Kapur. She's simply amazing. She is the founder and the CEO of WellBalancedSolutions. What does she do? She helps professionals and leaders to overcome their workplace conflicts. And believe me, there are lots of conflicts that are happening in the workplace today. So help me welcome to the show, Miss Suman Kapur. Suman, say hi to the people.
Hello, everybody. It is so great to be here. Thank you for that fabulous introduction, Andrew. That was amazing. Thank you.
You deserve that. You deserve that. I'm just calling it as I see it.
Yes, exactly. I need to carry you in my pocket all the time, pull you out when I need it and put you back in.
Awesome. I'm going to make that happen. I'm going to take you up on that. So I want to make sure I can record this podcast really well, and then you can just take the show with you, and you can just go back and listen to it again. But
all the time.
I'm so excited that you're here. I mean, we have waited weeks for this to happen. I mean, the calendar has just been buzzing. People are just booking in. I'm like, oh my goodness, I have got to sit down and have a conversation with this young lady. Now, the day is here. I am pumped. All right. So what I want to do is I want to get you to kind of meet the audience, kind of tell them a little bit about who you are, because we're going to drip the bio as we go through. So by the end of the show, they will have known more about you than just simply listening to your voice. So can you just tell them, introduce yourself to the audience and let them know what you do and how you can help them?
Yeah. So I am a daughter of immigrant parents. I grew up trying to find connections between cultures and generations, and it led me to my world of conflict resolution. I help leaders find a way to move conflict from negative to positive energy, right? If we sit through that conflict and we work through it, the end result, if it's managed properly, can really be amazing and life-altering.
Absolutely love it. Now, I know that seems like so big. It's a huge problem. And we're kind of in the same boat. I know we're in alignment, because one of my thing is that, one of my purpose in life is to be a vessel of purpose, meaning that I am a fork, I'm also a knife, and I'm also a spoon. So my background, I help people to get better with their fitness and wellness, and I got to push them. So that's the time when I am poking them with the fork. Get up and move. Go, you can do this. So that's the motivator in me, right? But I'm also a professional coach. So I take the big problems and I take the knife and I cut up their big problem into smaller, manageable pieces, right? And then when they get so overwhelmed, I got to use a spoon of compassion and scoop them up again and say, hey, get back on the horse. You've fallen off. You can do this again. So, and I love what you're saying. And all of this basically can be seen in conflicts, right? Yes. So help us understand how you are using your platform. I know we talk about NABO, which we're going to talk about a little bit more as we move forward, and how that using your platform to empower women. But what I want to understand is what kind of people do you normally serve? What kind of people do you serve? I know you said professional, but specifically, what kind of individual? What
Yeah.
corporations?
So a lot of what I do, I work with both men and women, but I
Yes.
really have a passion to help women,
Yes.
right? Especially in this area around conflict in the workplace, because a lot of what ends up happening, particularly with women of color,
Yes.
is when we get to be a little bit direct, we are seen as aggressive, right? And it's not that we're being aggressive, it's that we are asserting ourselves. And
Yes.
when it comes to conflict, there are points in which you do need to assert in order to
Yes.
move the conversation forward.
Yes.
But rather than seeing that as a positive, a lot of people see it as a negative and say, they're pushing me, they're this, they're that, instead of looking at, they're making it more personal than it
Yes.
really needs to be.
Mhm.
And my goal is to work with women, particularly, and help them find their voice when it comes to conflict management. And the way that I like to do it is to have them understand what their conflict management style really is,
Mhm.
right? Because at the end of the day, you can only change yourself. You
Right.
can't change anybody else.
Love that.
So if I'm going to be in the middle of a conflict, I have to see what I can do to diffuse the conflict, to get it to the point where the other person is going to actually listen to me and not be defensive. I can't walk in there and say, you're going to listen to me. I need you to do this and you were the problem. Who's going to listen to that? Either the other person's going to come out punching right back,
Right. Right.
or they're going to go like a turtle into their shell, and you're
Correct.
never going to move forward. So my goal is to help people dig through, do a deep dive, and to understand what their triggers are. How do you overcome their conflict triggers?
Mhm.
How do we use the various tools when it comes to understanding your personal conflict style? And then you use that to move forward. Again, my point is you cannot change anybody else for you except yourself. And you know that's true in so many things in life.
And speaking of which, though, when you say you can't change anyone else, you posted something on LinkedIn, which is one of my favorite poet of all times, Maya Angelou. And the quote was simply this, right? It said, if you can't change the basically rendition of the quote is simply this, that you can't change anyone. If you have a problem with something and you can't change it, then you need to change your attitude.
Exactly.
Change your attitudes towards that thing and or person. And really, that's what you're talking about, how we see
Absolutely.
things. But Suma, when I think about this conflict that people are having, there is two kind of conflicts. There's this internal conflict that we're having, and then there's that external conflict. The internal conflict can be where I don't see myself as good as I'm supposed to be, or I don't understand my gifts and my purpose and my skill set and my expertise and how they align with solving problems within the, should I say, the marketplace. And so now when I stand up as a woman to say I'm going to assert myself, then I am shut down. So do you think that this conflict is a result of the other people feeling threatened because you're now speaking when, quote unquote, history have said, women, you should be quiet? Can you speak on that?
Yeah, so absolutely, right? So when you think about the way the majority of organizations have been led historically, it's
Yes.
typically by a white male,
Yes.
right? This is typical. I'm not
Right.
saying it's everything. It's the typical sort of makeup.
Right.
And so what ends up happening is, and you see it even in society, anything that moves the conversation away from that individual being in control, it's threatening.
Yes.
And that's what ends up happening is that individual comes to the conversation feeling threatened.
Mhm.
Now, my point again is I can't change the fact that that individual feels threatened.
Right.
What I can change is how I approach that individual.
Right.
So I'm not going to walk in aggressive. He's already feeling threatened.
Right.
I'm going to come in the way I want him to open up and feel comfortable with me. So I'm
Mhm.
going to walk in make him feel comfortable, make him feel I am ready to hear him.
Right.
Right. Again, and I'm going to hear people, a lot of people may not agree with this. And I keep coming back to the fact that only you can change and impact you.
Correct.
Right. So if I come in blazing, right, for this conversation with someone who may feel threatened by my assertiveness, that individual is either, again, going to come back with aggression or is going to avoid me. And we don't get anywhere. Right. So my whole point with this is you can, I keep coming back to, it is literally my mantra. You can only change you.
Correct.
So, and it's hard because so many times we want to say we're right, but I'm right. And my point is we have become a society where we are putting winning in front of relationships.
Oh, talk about it. Keep going. Keep
right?
going. Go ahead. Ding, 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 ding. The seat is hot. Talk about it, please, young lady. Go ahead.
Right,
Talk
but
about
this
it.
is what's happening.
That's right.
We have moved away from the times where even if I disagreed with you, I could still go out for a drink with you. We've moved away from relationship building and we put winning in front of that. So that again, yes, it's hard. Absolutely. If you did me wrong, I want you to know you did me wrong. I'm going to come in your, what good does that do? It's only going to build the divide between the individuals and maybe impact the team or whether it's at home. So I have to learn, journal it, write it out, deal with your anger. And again, I'm not saying don't deal with your anger. If you feel wrong, you've got to feel wrong and and validate your emotions.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is if you walk in to someone aggressively talking about you're wrong, I'm right, they're not going to hear you. And you want them to hear that they're wrong and you're right. And the way to do that is to say, let's have the conversation.
Wow.
Let's have the conversation. Let's hear each other out. I want the relationship to move forward.
Oh my goodness.
Right. And then from there, what ends up happening is they're calmer. They say, okay, I see. The goal here is to build a relationship.
Yes.
Now what might end up happening, because I've changed my style and my approach, the other person's wall starts to come down. Now, again, this doesn't happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 5 minutes. It requires work.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited. I'm on the seat right now, and I'm telling you, the information that is happening, I'm telling you, I have just basically updated and upgraded my hard drive because I'm telling you, my guest right now, Ms. Kapur, is downloading information that is going to revolutionize your life, is going to revolutionize your thought process, it's going to revolutionize how you get up in the morning and get to that WORK. And I'm trying to help you understand that if you're listening and if you're ready, this young lady is going to set you on the right path. What am I talking about? This is our season of disrupting normalcy. Whatever was normal for you, it's no longer valid. We're disrupting that normalcy. How you see women in the workplace, how you see women in authority, how you see or perceive that assertion that they're asserting themselves, how they're not just raising their voice, they're owning their voice. And here we're going to use this segment to help you to empower women because there is so much toxic feeling between men and women, or the male spirit and the female spirit. And I'm not saying man and women because I think that's just the external person that you see, the case, the earth suit, so to speak. But it is a spiritual warfare that's happening between the male and female. And I'm so glad that Suman is here with us today. And she's helping us understand that conflict and putting it into its rightful place. Now, Suman, we know that you help hundreds of people, even thousands of people, and you're reaching millions of people by your message that you're delivering on LinkedIn. I've seen your posts. They're always positive, but they're insightful. They're allowing people to dig deeper, getting off the surface and really pinpointing those problems. With that being said, I want to go out on the limb and I want to say this, and I was writing while you're talking, and it's for a reason, because I'm a student of life. And it is the conflict. The conflict is the cancer.
Yes.
So I need you to write that down for me. All right. Write that down. I need you to use this example when you're discussing, because no one likes cancer, right? Because
Mhm.
cancer basically is a cyst that hoards all the nutrients that the other tissues should get, but it robs it. That's why the cancer grows. My background is in biology, medical biology, and that's what I use when I go into the workplace to help people understand how their wellness and their bad habits is a cancer that's
Mhm.
caused their productivity to be impaired. So the real conflict is the cancer. But this cancer, basically, it's something that's different from or outside of the person. But what you're telling me is that we are basically taking the winning or the win mindset over the people. Can you
Mhm.
help our audience understand the value of people when we are basically separate or extrapolate the cancer of the conflict? Help us understand that.
Yeah, of course. So, can't absolute. What ends up happening is if you don't figure out how to coexist,
Yes.
you're going to hate going to work. You're going to hate dealing with the person. You're going to hate every waking up in the morning,
Yes.
right? And so every time you interact with that individual or that team or hear a voice, you're going to cringe.
Yes.
And that's what you want to get away from. Who wants to live like that?
Nobody.
Nobody wants to live like that. And so the power, you really as the individual have the power to change it,
Yes. Yes.
right? They talk about in cancer, chemotherapy.
Yes.
You are your own chemotherapy and radiation then, right? And that's what ends
Love
up
that.
happening. But it's all here in the mindset.
Yes.
And again, I want to emphasize this is not an overnight solution.
No, it's not.
You have to work on yourself all the time.
Now,
Right?
what are some of the tips that you would give the people who are in the conflict, going through the conflict? What are some steps that you would give them? Because you said work on yourself. Of course, that's not easy. That's like me. I posted something online and I said, you got to dig deeper. And I have this guy chiseling off all of the fat and all the stuff that's on him. So when he ends up having is this nice chiseled body, I had to go through that with my wife because she was like, I don't know if you should place that because you're assuming that everyone's fat, right? I said, the fat basically is a metaphor for the weight of conflict that you're actually carrying, and it gets heavier and heavier and heavier as you meet someone else. So we got to chisel off all of that external things that really, as the Bible also said, we should lay aside every weight that easily beset us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anything that is not benefiting you or pushing you forward, you should just let that go. So the point I'm trying to get to figure out is this now. Other than giving people like a 5-step solution as to this is what you need to do to deal with your conflict, what are some of the feelings, the outcome, the results that you're looking for when someone has spent some time underneath your counsel or underneath your coaching? What are some things that you can see?
Yep. So, really quick story. So,
go ahead, talk about it.
When I had a client come up to me one time, and as she was talking about a particular scenario she was dealing with at work, I could see she was starting to heavy breathe. You could hear, the sweat was dripping down. Her voice was raising up. And I thought, oh my gosh, please, lady, do not have a heart attack do not have a heart attack. But as she talked about it, she was getting more and more angry and frustrated. So I asked her to stop and take a deep breath. I said, listen, take a deep breath and now tell me what's happening to your body. And as she took that deep breath, she was like, okay, I'm calming down. My heart is not pounding through my chest anymore. My legs do not feel like they're going to fall under me. I said, this is why we need to deal with that energy, that negative energy of conflict. Because if we don't, not only does it impact what's happening in the workplace, but it impacts our health. Right? You get the high blood pressure, anxiety, depression, not being able to sleep. So it physically affects us as well. So what ends up happening is you are no good at work, you are no good with your family, and most importantly, you're no good to yourself. So you have to figure out, and again, it's so much mind. And what I do is I ask people, think about the level of importance is this particular conflict. So for example, somebody takes when we were in the workplace,
Yes.
someone takes my stapler all the time. I get angry about that.
Yes.
Okay. Should you have the same level of anger when someone uses your stapler all the time versus your boss comes in at the last minute and tells you need to stay and work the weekend?
Right.
Are those equal?
No,
And if they're not equal, then you need to understand, how do I deal with the stapler being taken from my desk versus I now have to come in every weekend. Does my boss not understand I have other commitments? And use that energy and approach each of those situations with the appropriate level of energy, right? Because you want the outcome to be positive. So go have a conversation, but your conversation is going to be different, right? Someone's taking your stapler. Hey, bud, let me go buy you a $5 stapler. Here, Merry Christmas, right? Happy holiday, happy coworker day, right? And that solves the problem. Versus,
no, you go ahead, you finish.
Versus talking to your boss, right? That requires a little bit more thinking, a little bit more understanding. So what's the goal? What was miscommunicated? How come I now have to come in every weekend? Let's talk about it. I would appreciate a heads up. I've got a number of things that have to happen, but your boss has to be open to that. And the way that happens is it's your approach. If I stormed into my boss's office, I can't work this weekend. You really think he or she's going to be able to hear what you have to say? No. So it's the approach in which we take, which I come back to. We control our energy. We control our actions.
This is so poignant. That is so pertinent. That is so needed right now. And it's not just in the workplace. I know that you're a specialist in the workplace, but this is also important for those people in the home. And this is kind of why I have discovered that there's a trifold approach to solving people's problems, or to move through life, move forward, or progress through life or any situation. That's why I said that I help to bring out the best in people so they can create their greatest impact where they live, where they work, and where they play. Because the thing is that you can be great at work. You can be amazing at work. You are getting the accolades. You get that award every month. This guy's rocking our department. This guy right here, he's the pillar. This guy, we built this company on him. But when you go home, you're a nobody. Because you're a superstar at work, but the same effort that you put out at work to get the accolades and the rewards, you come home and you just rest on the couch. You're a nobody at home. You're a hero at work, zero at home, right? Yes. And because you're zero at home, then this affects you from a negative standpoint. So now you don't really take care of yourself. You don't go to the gym or put on your sneakers and go run and get that heart rate up so we can get all those plaque from out of your arteries and stuff like that. So here's what's happening now. You're great at work, failure at home, and failing at living. So that makes sense. We need to make sure that we're looking and we're mindful of those three different areas: where I live, where I work, and where I play. So the live is the home part, where you create that atmosphere that's conducive to growth for your family and everyone that's underneath your household. The work is where you use your expertise to empower and to meet the needs in the marketplace. Now, the self-care part is just where you play, whatever you do. And you talked about breathing. So the reason why I brought that up now, Suman, is simply this. A great speaker, a great scientist, his name is Dr. Andrew Huberman. You should see him on there on LinkedIn. And he was talking about, he's a Stanford professor, and he talks about the power of breathing. The reason why I'm bringing this up now, because you talk about breathing, because so many times we're panting like a dog when that situation happens, right? Because the amygdala, the brainstem is firing. This is my threat level is going up. I'm now seeing red.
Yes.
So you're telling people that breathing is one of the steps that they can apply, action steps that they can apply to control how they respond versus how they react. Now, can you give us a scenario, for example, that you probably with a client or something that you've actually witnessed where breathing was part of the solution to getting to a better result?
Sure. So, when you're caught up in all that negative energy,
yes,
you're not thinking straight. You're also not hearing. Right. So I actually had a situation years ago where somebody was having a conversation, but she was so riled up, she didn't hear the other person actually agree with her.
Wow.
Right. Instead, she was so focused on, I have to be right, and I'm angry, and you this, and you this, and you this. And the other person was actually like, yeah, you're right. I agree with you.
Mhm.
And she wouldn't hear it, because what happens, it's that fight or flight response.
Correct.
Right? And she was in the fight response. And what ends up also happening is your comments, statements, everything is all muffled in your head.
Mhm.
How many times have you walked away when you're angry and you've calmed down and you said, I should have said
Yeah.
such and such. I wish I had said X, Y, and Z. That
Right.
would have shown them.
Right.
But you're so caught up with all that adrenaline in your
Yes.
body that the thoughts cannot formulate
Love
properly
it.
and well. So this is why breathing is so important. And then the other technique I have, depending on the level of conflict, is writing down a script. Write down the points that you want to get across to the
Right.
person who you're talking to. Because again, the reality is, unless you practice, I have a problem even managing my conflict, and I
Right.
call myself an expert.
Mhm.
There's still times where my expertise goes out the door and I'm ready to come in, right? I'm
Yes.
ready. And I'm like, no, can't do that. But what I do is I have my notes.
Yes.
So I sit there and I say, okay, here are my points that I need to get across, right? And I will check them off. Even if I have to have a full script, I will sometimes even read directly what I've written,
Yes.
because it depends on who I'm talking to, what that personal relationship is. How many times have we said that personal conflict, spouse, siblings,
Yes.
parents, so much harder to deal with than a coworker or a boss? Because the ones in the family, they carry a lot more baggage,
That's correct.
right?
That's correct. Can you speak more on that, about the workplace conflict versus the home conflict? Because sometimes we take the home conflict and it throws off our work, and we do
Yeah.
vice versa, right? We're going to get into that a little bit more, but can you explain to them how they should not use or allow the home conflict to be part of the work conflict, and what steps do you have for them to kind of figure that out and work through that? Go ahead.
Sure. So, so many times, whether it's depending on the scenario, we tend to take the energies that we put on our families
Mhm.
and transport them into people at the office.
Mhm.
So, for example, if you are a younger sibling and you have a challenge with your older sister or your older brother, then you go to the workplace and you have found that you are also a younger employee,
Yes.
and your boss or your coworker is older, and it's that older, younger sibling dynamic that comes into
Yes.
play.
Yes.
Don't take what's happening with your older sibling and impose that on your coworker. Your
Yes.
coworker has nothing to do with your siblings borrowing your clothes or taking your car or telling you did something wrong. They're two different scenarios. So
Yes.
don't take that energy and drop it onto the coworker.
Wow.
So while people talk about bring your whole self, they're not talking about bring the shenanigans that are happening at home,
Don't bring your laundry.
especially with that interpersonal conflicts. Don't
Yes.
bring those to the workplaces.
Right.
But bring your whole self in that if you are struggling with something that's happening in the home,
Yes.
you can't leave it at home. It's really hard to do that. So find a safe person to have the conversation with at the office. Take a mental day. A lot of companies are offering mental days now.
Awesome.
Talk to a therapist. There are a lot of programs that companies offer as benefits where you can go and speak to a counselor depending on the extent of the conflict and the situations that are happening at home.
Wow.
There are lots of resources out there that can help you separate the two, but still help you recover with your interpersonal conflicts that are happening.
Yeah, I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to me for the first time, this is Andrew E. Guy on the ILIRPODCAST. I'm listening. I hope you are ready. I am sitting down having this amazing conversation about how to resolve conflicts in the workplace with the expert herself, Miss Suman Kapur. I'm telling you, information is valid. It's not incredible. It's credible, because in front of a word means not. And this is credible information that you can use to transform your life today for tomorrow and the future. I hope you're tuning in. I got my pencil. I got my notepad. I'm taking information. I'm taking notes. I'm in school. I'm a sponge. And I'm soaking up as much as we can here, because this information is so valid. It's so valuable. And I'm so thankful that you're on the show with us today. And so there's so much you're throwing out. What comes to mind when you're talking is a saying that Lisa Nichols once said. She said that energy flows where energy goes. That means if you take that negative energy at home and you take it to the workplace, it's not going to stay at home. It's going to follow you where you take that energy. And if it's a negative energy, it's going to be negative at work. So we're almost spreading this little viruses of energy around the place, and it's negatively impacting everywhere else we go. And so we're leaving this footprint, so to speak. And so what I'm learning from you today is to compartmentalize whatever issue we're dealing with and deal with it at that place. Fix it. Don't transfer it to the next place, because you're going to have a problem in the next area, because you're just basically taking it and spreading all over the place. Wonderful information. I'm so impacted in a positive way by what you're talking about, because we have conflicts every day, and everyone needs to hear this information about how can we fix this conflicts that we're dealing with. But I want to kind of segue a little bit now. I want to talk about some of the conflicts that, well, it's been a big thing. It's out there everywhere. I mean, there are movements that occurred or arise or came about because of this big conflict between men and women. So we're going to talk about it, and we're going to put it in its rightful place, kind of what we're talking about, right? But we're going to use good energy. We're going to use the right energy to make sure we are dealing with this thing. And it's the issue of this negative painting of a picture of women when we're talking about them being feminists and the feminist movement and how they are rising up to take their rightful place. They're now becoming leaders in the workplace, CEOs. They're just taking over. And so men are feeling a little threatened by this. You're a woman. You shouldn't talk to me like that. Now, I am speaking about this because, I am near and dear to my mother. And I want to say it to the men out there, if there wasn't a woman in the world, you wouldn't be here. And so I'm letting you know right now, all the stuff that were done to women before, when the men before me, my forefathers took away their rights and said they couldn't vote. They didn't have a voice. They were just an object, or they were just sex object. Shame on you. And you heard it here first. All right. I don't care how you feel about it. Shame on you. I came here as a result of a great woman, an amazing, outstanding woman. So I think, Suman, is that we don't know the value of what women bring to the table. And so we devalue them and we put bad labels on them and treat them basically how we think of them. But that was probably handed down from other people, other men who had a negative mindset towards women. So can you please take this moment to help empower our women, to help them understand you need to own your voice and you have a place in this world? I'm going to put you on the big screen right now, because I need you to shout this out to the world. They need to know this. Go.
Yeah, so absolutely. So when we look at it historically, right, women tended to be the ones that stayed home to raise their children. I left my career to raise my children. But what people don't understand is, how could you trust someone who you don't think is smart with one of the most important commodities in life, your child, right? So if you can trust a woman with your child, why can't you trust a woman in the boardroom? Why can't she lead and have a seat at the table? So again, we are moving that energy from the stay-at-home moms to coming into the workplace. It's also that diverse thinking. Women have a very creative mindset, right? We are nurturers by nature, and it's that feminine energy, nurturers by nature, creative mindset, problem solvers, right? Again, think about historically, we stayed home, with the children and raise the children. Whether we had a limited budget, so you had to be very strong problem solvers, and how do I entertain my kids on a very small budget that's coming into the house? Taking all those strong skills makes them women so valuable in the workplace. And yes, there's going to be a level of threat. Anytime there's change, there is a level, people feel threatened because change is scary, right? And unless it's communicated to you in a very effective manner, if you don't know the whole story of what the change is going to happen, your mind is going to create its own story. And 9 times out of 10, that story is not a positive story. So what ends up happening is when the women start to enter the boardroom and want a seat at the proverbial table, I'm threatened by that. Instead, what needs to happen is they need to understand they are getting more diverse thinking. They're getting outside of the box thinking. They're getting problem solvers and solution makers. So don't feel threatened, because what's going to end up happening is the women who are coming to the board table are going to increase your revenue, and you're just going to take it to the bank, right?
Preach, young lady, preach.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me, fellas. If you're listening for the first time, you're listening to Miss Suman Kapur, and she is downloading some of the most amazing solution for men. I'm speaking to men specifically, helping you to understand that when the woman shows up in the boardroom, she's not a threat. She's bringing some of that problem-solving skills. She's bringing some of that creativity. She's bringing some of that nurturing abilities that she used at home without a script to help solve some of the same problems within the workplace. So don't be threatened. When you're at work, men, when you leave the children at home and you come back and they're still alive, that took creativity.
Yes.
That took strength. That took the patience of a million people just to make sure that child ends up being alive when you come home. So you come home and you greet your little youngin', your little Johnny, whatever. Oh, you did such a great job. Think about the work that was done to make sure Johnny is still in all the pieces that you left Johnny in. Yes. And it's the same thing. I use Johnny or the child or the baby as your company, because every man who has a company, that's their baby, right? And so they're threatened because they believe that somebody's going to come and take away their baby or mismanage their baby. But she has been managing a baby at home for many, many years. She just want to come and help you. And by nature, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this, that women are created to help. They have a helpmate spirit to assist you to take your vision and put it on a mission so you can have a result of success. That's what they are there for. Not just that, but they're leaders too. And so once we recognize the skills and the qualities that human beings have, when we put them in the right perspective, I believe that there's no way for us to fail. I don't think so.
Speak it.
There's no way.
No way.
There's a scripture that says every joint supply it. And so if my shoulder joint is not in place, then I can't throw. If my hip joint is not in place, I can't walk. If my knee joint is not in place, then I can't even stand. All of these joints are the different people. And you talk about diversity, Suman. In the workplace, a lot of corporations are putting out this diversity, I guess it's just PR, right? But in their boardroom, it doesn't look diverse. Yeah. They only have one kind of joint, right? It's not a 360-degree joint. It's only a one kind of joint that just bends forward and backward. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And so if you're going to be diverse, let's get some different joints that's going to help to solve all the problems that you're going through. I absolutely love it. Go ahead. Take it away.
And I will say, though, that diversity will cause team conflict. I'm putting it out there right now.
Yes.
Diversity will cause team conflict. But if it's managed properly, the level of diverse thinking and diverse ideas is going to make your organization successful. So we need to sit through that and understand the diverse thought process, the diversity in intersectionalities that come across the play.
Yes.
We need to understand all of that in order to get to the successes that will come.
That's amazing. You said one thing that was just jump off the screen and just kind of hit me in the face, like boom, uppercut. And I just had to mention it because you said diversity can cause team conflict.
Mhm.
And how I internalize that is that we have all of these puzzle pieces. Have you ever tried to put a puzzle together and you have trying to figure out where they go? And I think that's the juggling act of diversity in the workplace. It's trying to find out where do you fit. There are all of these skill sets that have been put into this one room. How do we align them to make them work together seamlessly? And that's the juggling act. So conflict is the juggling act of finding where your gifts can be applied to solve a problem. And
Right.
that's kind of how I see it. And there's
Yeah.
going to be conflicts, right?
Yep. And so at the same time, too, just very quickly, it's the idea that if you surround yourself with yes people,
Yes.
you're never going to move forward.
That's
You
true.
are going to stay stagnant because you are the only one coming up with the ideas.
Yes.
And if you surround yourself with everyone that agrees with you, you're just going to keep going this way, lateral.
Correct.
But
Correct.
if you surround yourself with people who bring different ideas and different energy, then your thought process is going to go skyrocketing.
Absolutely love it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to me for the first time, we're talking with Ms. Suman Kapur. Ms. Suman, as a professional development coach and consultant, Suman understands people in a way that enables her to guide them towards a win-win solution. She improves the dynamic between people and helps them to navigate the everyday conflict so they can transcend differences and move towards improved cooperation and a better partnership for success. And I love the way she puts it. Success is a partnership between you and everyone that you're coming together to work to solve a problem in the marketplace. And that's exactly what's happening. So I am so thankful to be here with her. Now, Suman, it is time in our show when we talk about Think, Fire, Shoot. And it's a time in our show when we give you 4 questions and you got 1 minute to answer these questions. And so...
Okay, hold up. You know I'm a talker. You're only going to give me a minute a question?
Hey, you get 15 seconds per question. 15 seconds per question.
Might have a problem with that one, but okay. Okay, let's see what I can do here. I'm a talker though, so all right, let's go.
I see the look on your face already. It's like, I know he didn't. I know. But what I'm going to do before we start this part, normally I'll give a little bit more of your bio to let people know who I'm talking to, the caliber of individual, and the skill set that you bring to the table, and why we're interviewing you or having this discussion on ILIRPODCAST. Why? Because we want to bring the people that are going to help solve the problems that people are having out there. So when they listen, they'll be ready to take action. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, we're talking with Ms. Suman Kapur. Suman has a master's degree in conflict analysis and resolution and was a mediator before starting her own business. She lives in the greater Washington, D.C. area with a husband and 2 children. And I want to let you know that as we go through this interview, the amount of information that you're going to get that can use to be solving your problem today is countless. It is insurmountable, the amount of successes that you're going to get when you apply what she's saying. Okay, you can't put a value on that. I'm so thankful to have her on the show. All right, with that being said, it is time for Think, Fire, Shoot. So what you're going to do now, Suman, you're going to come on, you're going to say your name, and you're going to say your company and what you do, so everyone will know that it is you representing your company. All right, credibility of your company is not on the line, and the seat is hot, so I'm going to strike the match and light the stove, and then after a while, we're going to get it heated up. All right, and now you're going to be on the hot seat by the time we reach to the last question. All right, so the match has been struck, and so we're going to put you on the big screen, and you're going to tell the people who you are and a little bit about your company, and ready, take it away, go.
Sure. So hi, I'm Suman Kapur. I'm CEO and founder of WellBalancedSolutions. I call myself the conflict whisperer. I help companies and leaders overcome their workplace conflict.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first, and this is time for Think, Fire, and Shoot. All right, so Think, Fire, and Shoot is just a way that we put our best guests on the hot seat so they can use their brain power, their knowledge and experience to help give you quick solutions. That's what it's for. Give you 1 minute to give you quick solutions for those big problems that they're going to dissect and make it more manageable for you. That's the time. All right, now, Suman, so we're ready to rock and roll. The first question, it could come into a word, it can be a phrase, it can be a series of words. Doesn't matter what it is. You still got the same 15 seconds, okay? And it gets longer as we get to the end, all right? You still got the same 15 seconds, all right? So ready to rock and roll. The clock is on, and now the first question is simply this. Conflict. Where does conflict belong in humanity? Where does conflict belong in humanity? Ready, go.
Conflict belongs everywhere, because if you sit through it and you manage it properly, you'll have huge success.
6.2 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. Let's turn up the stove a little bit more. Woo, that wasn't hot enough.
Bring it on.
All right, we're gonna turn that stove up. You hear what I'm saying? She's now cooking. She just seasoned up the pot. It's time for us to start the cooking. All right. So, Suman, here is the scenario. So you have a client, and this client is the CEO of a company that was only run by men for the past decade. There's a conflict that arises because they have recently acquired a new female manager. Conflict belongs everywhere. How do you walk your client through this conflict?
Who's my client?
The client is the CEO of the company that was male ran for the past decade. They have now acquired a female manager in the CEO area, in the C-suite. So conflict belongs everywhere. How do you help your client to navigate through this issue? Ready, go.
Well, the fact that they brought on a woman means that they have a plan for her. So they need to be effective communicating what the plan is, and they need to make sure that they reach out to her and use her assets.
Wow. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, oh, wow. Did you hear that? That was like 11.6 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, she's cooking with grease. Cooking with grease.
Yeah, let's add a little curry in there. No fried food today. We're going to cook with the curry.
I absolutely love it, because you know that curry is basically an anti-inflammatory.
Absolutely.
And you know, people from the East Indies and from the West Indies, we love our curry.
Yes,
so
we do.
We're going to season up this right here. Here's the next question, number 3. All right. So the question number 3 is simply this. It's a series of words, And so the series of words are setups, setbacks, failures, triumphs, success. Now what? Go.
I'm stumped, Andrew. Setbacks. And now what? Now you sit back and enjoy the fruits of all your hard work. You got me on that. I was waiting. I was like, okay, what's going to happen? Okay, yes.
She got it.
She got all that, yes. Then you sit back and you enjoy all the work the fruits of your labor.
Ladies and gentlemen, she got it. All right. So the last question is, and she got that really good too. That was like at 9.6 seconds. That's very good. Like, wow. Okay. So here's the last question. The last question is this. It's based on my upcoming book, Create Your Greatest Impact. And I asked the guests this question because I want to see what their mindset is and how they would respond to this question. So everyone that comes on the show gets the same question, right? You'll be surprised to see how people think when I ask them this question. So the question is simply this. Last question, ladies and gentlemen, is this. On the highway of life, most people spend their time looking in the rear view mirror when they should be looking in the windshield on the highway of living. On the highway of life, most people spend their time looking in the rear view mirror instead of looking in the windshield on the highway of living. What say she? Go.
So I agree with that. But you have to look at the rear view mirror to understand and accept your failures. But looking forward, take everything that's happened in your past and make it shine in the future.
Oh, it wasn't hot enough. It was not hot enough. Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, she smoked that one. I'm telling you, I gotta make sure that next time the stove is on fire.
Oof. It's already hot in here. Don't make it hotter, man. That was amazing.
Oh my goodness. Suman, listen, it has been such a pleasure. It has been such a pleasure hanging out and talking with you. I'm telling you, this was time well spent. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to give you the last moment and whatever you want to talk about, to give a closing word, talk about your business and how people can reach you and where they can find you. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them what you got and let them come out there and get you, because I want them to understand what you bring into this world. So your final words, and I'm going to shut it down and I'm not going to speak. And this is your time. Ready, go.
Thank you. So once again, this is Suman Kapur, CEO of WellBalancedSolutions. I call myself the Conflict Whisperer. You can find me on LinkedIn under Suman Kapur. My website is www.wellbalancedSolutions.com. I want everyone to walk away knowing that they are empowered to work through conflict. It's not rocket science, but it's a lot of hard, deep dive digging into you. But once you work through the various layers, you can become so amazing, and moving through the conflict is amazing successes at the end.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's been our time. That has been our time on Think Fire Shoot. I'm so glad that you joined us today on this amazing February month of Black History. Happy Black History Month to all of you out there who are watching. And my final word is simply this. Don't look at the skin tone. Look at the content of your character. The content of your character can only be seen when you express yourself by way of your thinking and speaking. All right. So let them see who you are when you have processed your thinking through your words. And that's our time. You take care and have yourself a fantastic rest of the day. Remember what we say. Stay ready. Talk soon.
Until next time, keep listening, live ready, talk soon.